So this is some exciting news that I can't wait to share more about with you. But yes, if you saw the title of the video, I facilitated a leadership conference for the first time in my career. If you follow along here on the channel, you see that I am a Maxwell leadership speaker and coach. And as part of a mission trip with my church, I was asked to facilitate a leadership conference with the nonprofit we were partnering with. So this was a mission trip we took to Honduras. We went and stayed in a city or area of Honduras called Tela. And while we were there, we were partnering with a nonprofit. And part of this nonprofit's ministry is all about ministering and reaching out to the churches and the community, but empowering and equipping the leaders, the pastors, the community leaders to go and help their communities and their people. So this is totally different than most mission trips. A lot of mission trips that we take here from the United States, we go into another country and we try to be the saviors and the superheroes. We give out food and do all this great stuff and hey, look at us, look at all these pictures, look at all the great things that we did. This nonprofit was unique because they wanted to work with the leaders and let them lead their communities. And that is why this is so important to share here on this channel. So specifically for this leadership conference, this is going to be very raw, just me sharing some thoughts and talking, because I just got back last week. I've not even been back in the US for a full week, and here I am trying to record a video. But this leadership conference, initially it was talked about we were just going to be doing it for pastors and it was going to be leadership for them and their churches. Most churches there in Honduras are what we would consider small by our US standards, but they're community churches. They may be in an area of community with a dozen, couple dozen people that's in their community. So they're very tight-knit groups that are existing there. And so when I got there to Honduras, we started talking about who was going to be in attendance. And I started realizing that they invited a lot more than just the pastors. So instead of it being 12, 15 pastors, it was the pastors, their wives, and other church leaders. So we ended up with somewhere around 30, 35 people in attendance, which again, by US standards, that seems like a small conference, but the scene was amazing. The setting was amazing. And their interest in leadership was amazing too. So I'm going to share real quick about the nonprofit, about the conference as far as the setting, location, the visuals. I'm going to share just briefly what I talked about. And then I'm going to share a takeaway of why I love what these people were interested in and receptive to. So first off, this nonprofit, again, they are all about equipping and empowering the community and the area. So the name of this nonprofit is Hope for Tela. It's based out of Michigan here in the United States, and they are fully focused on working with pastors and churches and helping to build up their community. They do not want the recognition. They don't want to be the face of the ministry. They don't want people to rely on them as a nonprofit, but instead they want people to trust and build bonds and relationships with the pastors. So we were given the opportunity to visit a couple churches, work with the nonprofit. We were able to do some things for the community. It's a carnival, the conference. We were able to, our group had a women's group come in, teaching them how to make certain jewelry so they could be entrepreneurs and make a living. So many cool things that we did on this trip. As far as the setting specifically where I facilitated this leadership conference, we were actually underneath a gazebo overlooking the Caribbean. We were on the coast in Honduras, coast of the Caribbean. So it was absolutely a beautiful setting. If you go find my Instagram or my Facebook page at NickDyson13, you can see some of the pictures from the event. So definitely go check that out. But standing out there, mic'd up, speaker set up, and speaking through a translator was new for me. I've never spoken through a translator, and I do not speak a lot of Spanish. I speak very little. But having a translator, me and him were very close to the same age. We get along. I consider us friends, and he was fantastic translating. He was matching hand gestures. He was matching the tone and the passion, and absolutely loved working with him as a translator. He was great. So The setting was absolutely beautiful to hear the sea in the background, the waves, and there was a breeze coming in, but it was hot. Every single day we were there in the country, the heat index was over 100 degrees except for one day. So I'm wearing a hoodie in my house because since coming home, the temperature here in North Carolina, where I live, is much colder, and I feel like I'm freezing. My body was adjusting to the heat, but that's a whole other side story. So, some of the thoughts that I shared some of the Maxwell leadership content, and I'm not going to go in depth about that, but I was using John Maxwell's book, Becoming a Person of Influence, as my base to study and develop my talking points for the conference. And I started with focusing on the people themselves, the core values, the integrity of a person, because you can't lead someone else unless you first lead yourself and take care of yourself. If you do not have the values, the core values, then you can't go and effectively lead others. So that's where it starts. The second thing is I talk to them about having faith and confidence in people, because often people don't have confidence in themselves. We have self-doubt, we have self-worries, we have insecurities, we have things that impact us. That goes across cultural boundaries. Everywhere people can have self-doubt, self-worries. They can worry about finances, they can worry about their families and sickness and so many other things. So we need to have confidence and encouragement to others, to uplift them and give them support so that they can go and be effective, whatever their mission is. If it's for their business, for their family, for their church, they need that confidence and encouragement from others. The last thing that I talked to this group of leaders about was the idea of legacy, reproducing leaders, finding others that they could lead, teach them about leadership, and to carry on. And one of the cool things about that is there was actually a lady that was in attendance, and she was sharing how she was actually a student of another lady that was there. This was an older lady that had taught her about leadership and about being involved in church ministry and about doing different things. And she was kind of picking up that mantle and continuing on. And she was looking for somebody else to mentor and work with so they could come along behind her. And so that's that cycle of leadership that you see. And it was absolutely beautiful to see that example. So while I was there, I was able to hand out, our church was able to purchase through our donations and our funds for the mission trip multiple copies of John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. We were able to give that out to several of the pastors that were in attendance. We gave them, everybody that was in attendance, we gave them a devotional, but we also offered that if there was somebody they were discipling or mentoring or investing in from a leadership perspective, we asked, did they have a Bible to work with them, because these were all church leaders. So there's the spiritual element to this. If they did not have a Bible for someone they were discipling or mentoring or working with and growing in a church ministry setting, we provided a Spanish Bible to every single one of them that said they had a mentee or someone that was following them they were working with. We handed out, I believe it was somewhere between 20 and 25 Bibles for people who are being mentored by the church leaders that were in attendance. So I gave the example of the lady who was someone who was a student. She learned from another lady, was in ministry, and then was looking for somebody else. It was the same. There were older pastors that were there that were talking about the same types of struggles we have in the U.S., motivating people, getting people in the right fit, finding their gifting, their calling, and then also to motivate them to action and to be involved and to serve. We have those same struggles here in the United States, in ministry and churches and organizations. We see that. We also saw while we were there facilitating where they really understood the concept of passing it on, something that's a little different in their ministry than what we see in the U.S. We see it some, but not to the same extent, where there is a lot of ministry families, where there is a father who is in ministry and their son picks up where they left off and they go into ministry, and then their son takes up ministry. And you see this legacy of leadership that goes down through a family. Something we do see on occasion here in the United States, but there I saw several just in attendance at this conference that it was that way, that it was a father who was a pastor, a son that was a pastor. There were ones that a son would step up and take over as pastor of a church when their father retired or passed away. That was all something that was unique, but it's creating a level of legacy. So they understood legacy. They understood reproducing leaders, and they were soaking up everything that I talked about while I was there. It was a wonderful experience. I absolutely loved it. I'm looking forward to bringing more conferences to my area in North Carolina and facilitating more events. And I've got several that hopefully are in the works over the next year or two. I'm wanting to host and do more speaking in my area. And this was just the beginning. This was one of the first opportunities I was given. I've got numerous more that are coming in different settings, whether it be for business focused or ministry focused. I've got some different options that are out there. Really looking forward to what is in store. But I just wanted to share, this is the great thing that happened while we were in Honduras. It was absolutely an amazing trip, and I learned a lot. I had a lot of great experiences and really enjoyed time working with the nonprofit while we were there. So if you want to donate, there is a link to the website of this nonprofit in the description. If you want to send them anything, I know they would appreciate it. They do an absolutely fantastic work. So I want to shout out Hope Frutella. And then also I want to challenge you to be involved. If you are a leader and you have an opportunity to give back and to do something with your community or with a nonprofit or something that gives back to them and helps reproduce leaders, take that action and do it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.